Hello and welcome to today's episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I am your host, Anna Orr. And today we have a very special episode. We are talking a little bit about legacy, community, and a bit about the general election with the City of Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. This is going to be a really good episode, and I think he might answer a few questions you have before we head into this next general election. Stay tuned. Mayor Frey, I'm so excited to have you joining me on this episode of Community Connections. Welcome to the program.
Oh, Galatomi, thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here.
Now, we know that you have been the mayor of Minneapolis for the last 7 years. Talk to me about some things that you are most proud of and or least proud of about our city.
Yeah. We live in what I believe is the greatest city in the entire world. I'm not here by default, not here because I was born in this location. I moved here because I love this city. I fell in love with Minneapolis when running the Twin Cities Marathon. I got a job out here as a lawyer, first as business litigation and followed by civil rights. And I started my life out here. I have a wife named Sarah, a daughter named Frida, and we have made Minneapolis our home, as so many other people from across the globe have done the same thing, including our Oromo community. And it's a special place where we can have people from 1,000 different backgrounds, all located in one spot, and that diversity makes us stronger. That's one of the parts that is most beautiful about Minneapolis, most beautiful about our wonderful Oromo and East African communities, and I'm just proud to be mayor of the city of Minneapolis. In the last 7 years, we've had both triumphs and tribulations. There are things that are going incredibly well, and at the same time, we can't be blind to the challenges that we experience. I joke that I wish I could go back to the mayor that I was in 2018 and 2019 and tell that person, you've got it pretty good. The world has changed entirely. The way people engage with their governments have changed entirely. And I've learned lessons over the last 7 years that have made me a better mayor and have hopefully made me a better person. And you use those lessons every day to do your job in a better form. And so whether it's work around the government structure change that I'm very proud of, we shifted to a strong mayor system, or it's work around housing. We are providing nation-leading affordable housing policy. In fact, we're getting numbers that are better than virtually every single city in the entire country. And while we've been through a whole lot over these last several years, what you see right now is a trajectory that is on the right track. We were just rated as the happiest city in the entire country, rated as having the best park system in the entire country, rated as a great place for recent college grads and for seniors. And so all of these things working together shows that we're on the right track. And at the same time, we have a whole lot of work left to do, and I'm proud to do it with our beautiful communities that are with us.
Now, talking about the community, what can we expect from you coming up this year as we close out 2024 and head into 2025?
You can expect that we're going to do a lot of work to keep this positive momentum going. Right now, we are producing about 6.5 times the amount of deeply affordable housing that we were before I took office. 6.5 times more deeply affordable housing. You're going to see that work continue. Also, in terms of this economic comeback and a revitalization, both downtown and throughout the city, you're going to see more work happen there. Everything has changed since 2020, COVID-19, a global pandemic, and it's not going to be the cities that are clinging white-knuckled to what once was that are successful. It's going to be those cities that are embracing change, that truly reach their full potential. And so you are going to see a number of things that happen in this city, from festivals to parades, from activations that weren't previously there to a pedestrianization of Nicollet Mall. You're going to see a lot of things that are helping us collectively come back, and you're going to see a renewed focus on cultural corridors, areas of our city that have a wonderful cultural community, from a number of different areas from around the globe where we can invest, where we can partner, going hand in hand with our Oromo community, facing the world, facing some of the most difficult issues that we face, but we're going to do it together. And so there's a number of things that we're working on. Safety is obviously another one. While we have seen a general positive trajectory in the last several years, in other words, crime has been going down overall in the last several years.
Can you repeat that just one more time?
I
for
will.
People that don't believe that that is happening in our city.
Yeah, since I've been mayor, there are instances where perception has matched reality, and there are instances where perception is dramatically different from reality. I'll give you an example. In 2018 and 2019, crime was at some of the lowest that we've ever had in our city's history. And I would have countless people coming to me telling me that crime is awful. It's miserable. Crime is going up. We don't feel safe coming downtown. And I'm like, well, look at the data. Look at what the numbers show. Are there instances of violent crime that get a lot of publicity? Yes, there is. And a single shooting is too many. But the general trajectory shows that things are on the right track. That was in 2018 and 2019. Now, perception did match reality in 2020 and 2021. Crime was up dramatically. It was a huge problem around our city, and when people expressed concern, yeah, I was concerned myself. And that concern matched the data that we were seeing. Now, since that time, largely, crime has dropped. Crime has dropped virtually around the city. And of course, you will see spikes and valleys. You'll see months that are better, and you'll see months that are worse. That's just the general nature of the world. But the overall trajectory that we are on is going in the right direction. We need to be doubling down on efforts to recruit police officers. I've gotten a lot of pushback from several council members on this, but we got to do it. We need police officers in our city. We need more police officers in our police department. We need police officers that reflect what the rest of our community looks like. We need more Oromo community police officers. So by the way, if you're out there watching right now and you're thinking to yourself, I want to make a big difference in the community of Minneapolis. I want to protect and serve people. I want to be a hero and be there for someone during some of their worst and most difficult moments in their entire life. If you're thinking that you want to be that kind of hero, join the Minneapolis Police Department. Come in at the ground level, be part of the change. By the way, the pay is good. We just got a new contract. The pay is very good. You're going to have excellent partners and the ability also to see substantial promotions. And so it's a great place to come work. We would love to have you, and we want to make sure that our Oromo community is part of the faces that you see in the Minneapolis Police Department.
I think that's very important. We were recently at an event at the Brian Coyle Center where it was a recruiting event with the city of Minneapolis for EMS dispatch as well as the police department. How have you seen Minneapolis change over the last 7 years? Now, you've talked physically a little bit about some things that are taking place on Nicollet Mall, but what have you recalled over the last 7 years?
Well, the job that I had as mayor in 2018 and 2019 is not the same job that we have today. There are very real and practical things that have changed. We used to be a weak mayor system, and we are now a strong mayor system. We have a clear executive where people all report up to the mayor. The legislative body is the one that passes the laws, that's the council, and the one that controls the day-to-day operations is through the mayor. So that's been a huge change. And I'll give you an idea of what that change looks like practically. We used to be in a time of crisis, and I would bring all of the major department heads into my office, chief of police, head of economic development, city attorney, city coordinator, reg services, et cetera, and we'd all be around the conference table. And we would need to act in the immediacy to solve a very significant problem. And I would say, all right, you do this, you do the other thing, you do that, go. Give directions out. The first question that was always asked was, well, what is the city council going to do? That was our old structure of government, where we had to navigate decisions that had to be made in the immediacy through a city council system. And whether that was written into the law or the culture, that's the way it was. Now that has changed, allowing us to act quicker and more efficiently, and it's been a huge change to how my job functions as mayor in this city. There have also just been changes to the general culture and political climate. We're seeing a level of extremism in our politics that we haven't seen before, at least in recent memory. We have people pushing to the very far extreme right, oftentimes racist, oftentimes nationalist, hyper-religious at times. This kind of fundamentalist extreme right that exists in our country. We also see an extreme left, and in many cases they touch like a horseshoe, where the same tactics are used on the extreme left as the extreme right. And I'll tell you, it's a problem. We need people that love their city more than their ideology. We need people that care about Minneapolis first and politics second. And far too often I have seen from activists, from council members, and from people that purport to care about the result, truly care more about the politics of the situation. I'm going to be very public in calling that out because I've been seeing it more and more recently. The best approach is not the most extreme one. The best approach is by looking at the data, listening to people that are experts. Not me, experts. I'm not an expert in epidemiology, but I listen to epidemiologists. I'm not an expert in finance, but I listen to the best possible financiers that we can get a hold of. I'm not an expert in economic development, but we listen to communities that are impacted by it and people that have expertise in that particular area. We need more people that have the strength of character to tell their own side what they don't want to hear sometimes, which is hard to do. That's leadership, though. And we also need more people that will listen to the expertise when it's on the table.
I think that's very well said. Now talk to me about what are your top priorities and your vision for Minneapolis as we head into 2025 and beyond?
We need to be a city that works for everybody. We need to be a city that makes our city a happier and better place. We can be a world-class city that is known for leading the way in a number of different fronts. And the priorities themselves haven't really changed in terms of the overarching categories. Look, it's still public safety and police reform. It's still economic inclusion and recovery following a global pandemic. It's still affordable housing and housing production generally. It's climate work, and it's our government structure shift. So these are the things that kind of remain the core priorities of that which we're working on. And in each one of those categories, we've got subpoints. We've got a macro, comprehensive plan for the direction that we can bring the city. Things that we can work on that quite simply benefit people's lives, because at the end of the day, that's what government should be about. We're about helping people. We're about making their lives better. And one of the things that I love about city government, perhaps more than anything, is the fact that we in Minneapolis have the ability to go hand in hand with communities, working with them, collaborating with them around some of the toughest issues that we could possibly face, issues that other levels of government don't want to touch with a 20-foot pole. It makes it hard. It makes it controversial at times. Certainly not everybody is going to agree on anything. But you can tackle issues that do improve people's lives, and you can make a decision and see the impact of it. Where in other levels of government, you might make a decision today, and maybe in 5 years, you see what the results of it are. In Minneapolis, at the city level, I'll make a decision, and oftentimes tomorrow or 2 days from now, we see what the impact is.
Now, we are talking a little bit about affordable housing earlier in the conversation, but how are you going to ensure affordable housing is able to reach all residents?
That's
I don't
right.
know about your community, but in mine, I see houses being built left and right, for sale signs going up, and I know that the demand is still there for people to need affordable housing, not just today, not just tomorrow, but for their families and networks.
That's right. Well, we start with the premise that housing is a right. Everyone should have the right to go home to a safe place at the end of the night, to rest their head on a pillow and to rejuvenate for the next day. Not everybody has that right. We recognize that housing is foundational to whatever step you're going to take in life. If you don't have a stable home, if you don't know where you're going to sleep that night, you can't possibly think about getting a job. It's hard anyway. If you don't know where you're going to sleep that night, it's hard to run with a great idea or to become an entrepreneur. If you don't know where you're going to sleep that night, it's hard to take the next step. And so we as a city, I believe, have an obligation to do everything we can to help provide people with a foundation of a home. And we are providing, actually it's more than 6.5 now, it's about 8 times the amount of deeply affordable housing that we were before I took office. 8 times that amount of housing. We've managed to, in Minneapolis, keep rents down more than virtually any other major city in the country. How do we do that? 2 ways. 1, we made sure to build more homes. Build more homes that are market rate and affordable, both of those. We've allowed for additional density, more homes to go up on commercial corridors or downtown throughout the city. We've also subsidized housing at record levels, providing more money so that we can ensure that when a home goes up, it can stay affordable for a longer period of time. Doing that work has literally set Minneapolis up as the foremost housing city in the country. When I go around the country, other mayors ask us, what are we doing in the areas of housing? We were the first city in the country to get rid of single-family exclusive zoning, which allows for duplexes or triplexes to get set up. We're doing some remarkable work that allows for more people to live here. And I think that everybody should have the ability to live in a great city. Minneapolis is a great city, and more people, regardless of your background, your socioeconomic status, who your parents were, more people should have the ability to live here with us. We welcome you to Minneapolis. We want you here. That's the message we want to deliver.
I think with so many changes in landscape with healthcare, there are so many more people moving to our city, moving to the state of Minnesota and becoming our neighbors more than what we expected.
Yep.
Now, I just want to switch gears a little bit and talk about how you plan to promote economic recovery in underserved communities.
One of the things we've been saying is that following all of these crises we had in 2020, we had a global pandemic, an economic downturn, the murder of George Floyd, the subsequent unrest, a city budget crisis where we had to go through multiple budgets in the same time that we would normally go through one budget. And now that we're coming back, what I've been telling people is the goal is not to get back to the old normal. That's not the goal. The goal is to blow by that old normal, to see true transformation in our city, where economic inclusion is not just a catchphrase, but a reality that we live, where economic inclusion is not just something on a piece of paper, but is reflected in the work that's being done. And so that's what we want to push for. And to provide some specificity, it also means we're putting our money where our mouth is. It means that we're funding programs and projects that are specifically geared towards areas of our city that are of lower income. We look at what are called green zones, areas that have a cross-section of both poverty and pollution to help them out, providing more money to those areas that need it most. That's some of the work that we're doing. And so, it may mean that, it does mean that we're looking to our lower income communities first to help them out. It does mean that we're making sure to be as welcoming as possible to people from across the globe, because we at the end of the day believe that makes our city better.
How are we going to be able to ensure that minority communities are heard in shaping city policies? I know that you talked about working specifically in the community and talking to people of the community and leaders of said communities, but what does that look like for the city of Minneapolis?
It looks like not just having minority communities at the table when decisions are being made as key advisors in the process, but also making sure that they're key beneficiaries of the work. It means that when policy decisions are made, there's a lens of economic inclusion through which we're looking that should help out. So it's not just doing things as we always have done them. You do things the way you've always done them, you're going to get the same results. And we recognize that, so we're doing things differently. If you look at people that we've hired out at the city, making sure that there is broad inclusion, that's a key part of it. And so, in terms of, if you look at the way that we've laid out leadership positions at the city, where we take input from, going into community, meeting with them where they're at to say, hey, what is it that we can do for you to help? The outreach is intentional. The outreach is not one where we sit in an office at City Hall. It's one where we go out into the community. We ask people the question, what is it that would make your lives better? What would help your children's lives be better? And sometimes you get some news that you might not want to hear. Sometimes you hear people tell you things that, hey, we need to make some improvements here. But you take that improvement, you listen to it, and you incorporate it into the policy itself.
I think that's important to share for people that are still trying to find their footing in our landscape. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about the election. Can you just share with viewers what is at stake with the upcoming election? We're closing in on November 5th, and I know there are a lot of people who have already made some decisions, but like you said, there's so much information coming in on both sides, and sometimes it seems so overwhelming that some people just decide to disconnect, and we know that that can't happen.
The state of our republic is at stake. During most normal elections, look, I care deeply about the result, always. And during most elections, I'm very concerned about policies that I care about. We want assistance from the federal government to put up more affordable housing. That's always a concern. Concern about health care and making sure that everybody has the right to get basic, important, affordable health care. Very important. Issues that we care about in terms of our value structure. And don't get me wrong, I'm very concerned about all of those things now also. And I'm concerned about the state of our republic, the future of our republic, the endurance of our republic. Why? Because you have a presidential candidate in former President Trump who has literally said that he won't abide by the results of the election. The most foundational principle of our democracy is that there is a peaceful transition of power. People vote. They make decisions. There are consequences to that vote, and then the politicians that are running need to respect them. That's what prevents war. That's what maintains a republic. And that's at stake in this election because you literally have a candidate that is not saying that he will abide by the results themselves. And so I'm hoping that obviously the incredible candidates and Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz win this election. I'm all for them. I'm also hoping that and praying, and we're making sure it's the case that we've got an election structure and system set up that is unimpeachable, that provides the right tools so that there is a peaceful transition to the next president.
Thank you very much. Lastly, what keeps you committed to this work every day?
The people of the city. They hold me accountable. They go with us hand in hand on some of the most difficult issues that are out there. And it's a love for the city that we have. You know, I moved here because I fell in love with this place. I remember running the Twin Cities Marathon, and I was around the 25th kilometer, mile 15 or so. And the guy that I was running with turned to me and said, "This is an extraordinary city." And I thought, yeah, it is. I could totally see myself living here. I love this city. I love Minneapolis, and I want to make it the best place possible. And I think that working together, we truly have the potential to do that. You're part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look directly in this camera for me and just share a note with residents, encouraging them to stay engaged with what's going on in our community.
Yeah. Stay engaged. Listen to wonderful enterprises like OROMIA11. This kind of work where we are engaging directly with residents allow people to hear the truth about what's going on. They allow them to have more contact with their local governments. And through that contact, we all can make better decisions. At the end of the day, there's a partnership with media like OROMIA11. There's a partnership with our community. And there's a partnership with elected officials where we all can work together, hold each other accountable, and better our cities for everyone.
Thank you for joining me,
Thank
Mayor
you.
Frey, on
Yeah.
this episode of Community Connections. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today for today's episode. And I hope that something Mayor Frey shared or that we discussed today you have found inspirational and or impactful. Please make sure that you stay aware of what's going on with the election, but also what's going on right here in Minneapolis. Visit the city website, stop by events that you know he'll be speaking at so that you can hear up-to-date information concerning you and those that you love. As always, I am Anna Orr, and this has been your episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I look forward to connecting again with you soon.